This is SLP by Day,
Author by Night,
with Tali Kellerstein and
Becca Eisenberg,
bringing the SLP writing community
together.
Hi, I'm Tali Kellerstein, pediatric speech-language pathologist and founder of the Speak Boutique. I'm so excited to be co-hosting this podcast, SLP by Day, Author by Night, with my brilliant friend Becca Eisenberg, as we celebrate the stories and voices of SLPs who are changing the game through creativity and connection. You can learn more about my work at thespeakboutique.com. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. We read all your comments and would love to have your feedback. If you are an SLP author, please join our Facebook group, SLP by Day, Author by Night. Hi, everyone. Welcome to SLP by Day, Author by Night. We are so excited to have Tammy Estabrooks on with us today. Tammy Estabrooks is a pediatric speech-language pathologist with over 25 years of experience in both public and private practice with the preschool and school-age populations. She's eager to help spread the word about strategies to encourage early literacy, speech and language skills for kids of all ages. She's authored Perfectly Peach, is an adjunct professor in the speech language pathology program at McMaster University, is a board member on the Castlepo ICRC Inquiry Complaints and Reports Committee, and has co-produced a parent training video series for the Children's Treatment Network. She looks forward to sharing her toys and more exciting works which are in progress. Tammy, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Hey, thank you, ladies. I'm so excited.
So, Tammy, I know you from way back when we briefly worked in the same building. And for those who haven't had the pleasure, can you share your background as an SLP and what initially drew you to the profession?
Well, as you quoted in my bio, I have been an SLP for over 25 years. So that is half my life. And what drew me to the profession? Well, I started out as pre-med, and then I was in an interview for med school at Memorial, and I just kept talking about a volunteer experience I had with a little girl at her daycare who had cerebral palsy, and the SLPs at the local hospital hired me on to help her facilitate her language. Anyway, I was telling that story during the med school interview, and the panel said, "Hey, do you think that maybe that's where you want to be?" And I said, "You know what? You're right. Sorry for taking up your time." And the rest was history.
Wow. Wow. From there, what was the application process like? Did you have to go back to take extra courses? Was your were already set into speech?
Well, yeah, I did a double major honors in biopsychology, so I had a lot of psych, and well, I had the biology credits as well. So they were looking for more linguistics, but I didn't have that. But I think that my volunteer experience and having uh, level one ASL and just I did everything I could that pointed towards the SLP profession, and I think that was enough.
Beautiful. I'm very happy to have you
I
here.
applied everywhere.
I guess I would like to know a little bit about, could you just talk a little bit about your children's book, like what it's called, also like what it's about and like what inspired you to write it, and also your co-author as well, right?
The illustrator is Vicky Cancino, and it's our book. There's a little bit of history about the book before the books. So I met Vicky during an earlier center Mother Goose program, and we got to talking. And she also has a daughter. She has two kids and a daughter and a son, and they are a mixed family as well. She is Canadian and her husband is Filipino. And so when we were at the Mother Goose program, I saw her baby girl, same age as Alexandra. They were about 18 months. And I thought, oh, this is the most beautiful baby. And my baby's a most beautiful baby too. But look at this little girl. And we got to chatting. And then I shared with her the poem, Perfectly Peach. And she fell in love with it. And she asked me if she could illustrate it, and I didn't even know she was a medical illustrator. So she drew all the hearts and organs that we remember studying back. But what really inspired me to write Perfectly Peach was actually fast forward to when my daughter Alexandra was 3 years old, and she asked me, "Mommy, what color am I?" And I thought, oh boy, I thought that question wouldn't be coming until many years down the line. So I said, "Well, honey, you are a little bit pink and you're a little bit brown. You're perfectly peach." And the rest became a poem, which evolved into a book, which continues to touch families, and we're just so very pleased and proud of that.
Amazing,
So
amazing.
wait, so do you write that? So you wrote that poem for you wrote that poem, right?
I wrote that poem for our family, and Vicky illustrated it, and we just made a little book just to share with our families over the holidays. And something just told me to share it with one of the principals at one of the schools that I worked with because we had a very close relationship. And she said, "I've got to share this with the librarian." And we
Mm,
only had a handful of copies, and the librarian ripped the book out of my hands and said, "I've got to share this book." And it became two copies are available in every Catholic school in York Region because of that little
Wow.
picture. So
um,
that's why I always say it's important to share your toys.
right.
No, that's great. Do you normally write poems?
Um, I I have in the past, I guess in high school for the school newspaper way back when, but if you look at the style of our book, it is written in I guess, stanza, rhyming couplets. I think I just kind of go to that from my high school days of shout out to Suzanne Doyle, my grade 12 level one English teacher, and also theater arts teacher. So I just fell into that I guess I just fell into that format. But I also write prose. I'm working on a screenplay right now, and that's for a different audience, let's just say. And but when I wrote the sequel to Perfectly Peach, again, I just fell into the rhyming couplet format, and to me it appeals more for a children's book. Even though when we went to seek out a formal publisher and they responded back to us, nobody's writing in rhyming couplets anymore. Nobody's writing rhyming books, excuse me. And I was like, really? Have you read any Eric Carles?
Julia Donaldson.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's one of the great things about self-publishing is that you could go with what you want to, what you feel is right. And I like that we talked about this because we haven't spoke about this on the podcast yet, that all different things could turn into children's books, like a poem, a song, a story. And so I
Collection of
think that's the
images.
beauty of like working on your own book, like self-publishing, is because if you feel like something needs to be in the world, you could do it.
Yeah.
Any moment, any parenting moment, good or bad, I
Mhm.
just find that I have my own collection of stories, and it's often hilarious things that my students or kids say, or how parents interpret things that I give them for homework, believe it or not. They have a different perspective and a different
Yeah.
take from we have a speech language pathologist, and it's hard for us to take that hat off. But as I say to when I read my book to the schools and other colleagues when we share our publications or our toys, that everybody has a story, everybody has a narrative, everybody has something to share. And whether it's in a book format, whether it's in a video, I always like to do little family videos as well. We all have a story to tell, and that's unique to us. But a story really isn't a story until you share it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Tammy, we haven't seen your book. Can you show everybody the cover?
I sure can. It's always sitting on my desk.
It is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Were you initially hoping to get traditionally published? Because you said you'd sent to a publisher, they rejected it. So was the initially you were trying to get to a traditional publisher and then you switched over, or did you kind of always have the idea that you would publish it yourself if traditional didn't take? What was that journey like?
What was the journey like? Yeah, well, I thought that was the way to go. You had to find a traditional publisher, and I started to look at different programs or packages um, on the internet, and they were just very expensive. And the funny thing was, I didn't even know, but my neighbor across the street, they had a publishing company. They would
Oh wow.
uh, more business documents and legal documents, and so I thought, well, can you do a run of this little poem? And that came to be. And then my friend Vicky and co well illustrator, she was very connected with other I guess local publishing houses,
Mhm.
but we did shop around, and we actually initially had the book all the way in Victoria, BC, being published there, and then the big boxes being sent back to us. But what brought us back again to the self-publishing, um, I guess, perspective was that we had control over the book. And
Mhm.
we were rejected from other publishers because of the either the writing style, or they wanted to use their illustrators, or
Yeah.
they had vision and it wasn't our vision. And to me, I would have rathered it never go to press than to go to press and it be something out of our control, because it would have changed the narrative. It would have
Yeah.
changed. And the story is not just the words, it's the words and the pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like just like a nice lesson when you find that I think for other people who are looking into working on a children's book, it's like a really nice relationship with the illustrator because the illustrator is the one who brings out the story. And I think each story you almost have to find like I feel like that relationship, they have to see your vision. And I love the illustrations, they're adorable. And I love the title of the book, Perfectly Peach. I think I don't know, I love it. I think it's adorable.
I'm
Thank
also
you.
very partial to alliteration.
No, I know. We just everything we do, everything we say, it's part of who we are as speech language pathologists. And even I've done a sequel, which I'm really excited about. It only took me 17 years to write because for our second daughter, Arden, and it is going to be ready for press in the fall.
So
Um,
exciting.
a gift to her to as she goes off to university. So we're at both ends of the spectrum, right? Thinking of the book, how Perfectly Peach began, and how the ardent apricot
Oh,
seed is because she is the apricot sister in the book, and her name is Arden, and ardent is a word that describes her.
perfect. Perfect.
Wow, that's really sweet. I like that too when you talk about a sequel. Because I think that's the other thing. We've had some authors on too that have written sequels, and it's really nice. It doesn't matter how long it's been. It's nice to have like that series of books, the sequel to it. Because anyone who's read the first book is going to want to read the second.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, where is your book available? Is it on, I see that it's on the website, your website, but is it also on anywhere else?
You can go through Facebook for those who I'm dating myself by saying that, but it's very resourceful, and it's my goal to get things into different social media platforms. And I will be, updating that as we go along. But for the moment, yeah, our website and through Facebook.
Without spoiling the giving away too many spoilers, what happens in the plot for Ardently Apricot versus Perfectly
Ah,
Peach?
that's a great question. Well, Perfectly Peach, I like to say, is being you from the outside.
Mhm.
And the ardent apricot is what makes you unique from the inside.
Ah, okay.
I didn't go into that vision writing these books, but as I, reflect on them, I found, okay, that seems to be where that lands. And in a sense, it brings everything full circle. And it's just a little gift to her as she goes on her way to university and her life, because it's all about just being you. You can't
Yeah.
be any, you can only be you.
Beautiful. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. And where you're printing them, are you printing through the person who you said who you met across the street, or they're a publishing house, so you're printing separately? How?
I'm managing locally in York region. So there's a place in Aurora that we go. I don't know if Vicky was is handling all of that. She's
Okay, perfect.
professional end of things, but no, I'm happy to share that with anyone who wants to know. And I just want to say one point about self-publishing. The most rewarding thing is to hold your book in your hand. And it's just really makes your story come to life. But we were equally excited to see the certificate for the ISBN number. And I went on I can't even remember the process because it was so long ago, but I was so pleased to have that document sent to me. And it's framed. I don't even have my degrees framed, I have that framed. That is truly a marked accomplishment. So I'm really excited about that. So that's something to share as well with self-publishing. That is part of it's almost as if it's your seal at the end of your journey.
You made it.
Yeah, yeah. And just for anyone also who's doing self-publishing, and if you do print on demand, the ISBN number is something you could also do through Amazon. But with Tammy, it's a little bit different because when you self-publish at, like, let's say more of a local publishing house, you have to go through a different process in getting the ISBN number. So that's something I've learned over the years, because 2008 is when I published my first book too, as well. And it was so different back then, right? Like there was so many different things, like, and it still continues to grow. But I want to ask you next just about your marketing, because that's something that Tali and I ask all of our guests, because I know as speech pathologists, at least I never took a marketing class.
Yeah.
So what that's been like, maybe like in 2008 versus now, because, it's such a different world now. So I wanted to know what your marketing was like, and also any tips for people or.
Well, for marketing, we haven't done anything formally. It's just taken off a life of its own through word of mouth. February is coming up as a Black History Month, and that was often a time when I was asked to read the book at different schools, but they heard about it through other schools or other colleagues, and that's kind of how we've done our marketing in a timely fashion with what's happening in the world. But I would like to really, that's on my bucket list to take more of a formal approach now that we have a sequel as well. And also with Perfectly Peach, a funny little story in terms of marketing in a circuitous way was that one of the teachers at my daughter's elementary school approached Alexandra and said, is this you? Is this you in this book? Because your name, the author's name is the same as your last name." And she said, "Yep, yep, yep, that's me." And she was in grade 4 and she was a bit shy about it. And what had happened was her teacher's wife was on maternity leave. And his wife shared this book with him at that. The book was in their school because many years before I had done a reading for the school. And mom on maternity leave, excuse me, had taken Perfectly Peach and made a little curriculum around it. And
Wow.
that had taken on a life of its own. And so
Mhm.
that was basically our marketing per se, just like I said, me doing talks in the schools and teachers taking the onus to create something with that and using it as a platform to discuss diversity and inclusion. Um, a sad thing, though, in terms of the whole idea behind what the book is about in terms of diversity and really explaining that piece because it's a starting point for a very difficult subject, I think, with families and with children, but definitely something we can talk about. And during COVID, after the horrible, horrible murder of George Floyd, the very next day, Crayola had put out Colors of the World.
Mm.
And this was a new package of crayons that reflected different complexions. And I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. And so at that point in time, it was also the 10th, would have been 10 years since our book had been published. And so I thought, well, let's do a 10th year anniversary and a reprint of the books. And I will reach out to the teachers that used the books in the past. And Vicky, my illustrator, said the most brilliant thing. She said, just reflecting what's happening in the world, do you think that you might consider changing the last line of the book? And I thought, I don't, that would be fine, but what will we say? I have no ideas because the original version says, and we appreciate um, our, it makes it more reflective of our heritage. But she said, how about that we love all colors? And so I thought that's perfect. And so with the new reprint, that was the new line and the new vision. And then from that point on, I always gave packs of Crayola crayons to the schools so students could see themselves as they create their own stories.
I noticed that you similarly have the family tree template on your site, so they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
literally
I
draw
love
their
that.
families out um, uh, and
Explore that
represent
part.
themselves. Yeah,
Bring it back to their narrative. Yeah,
yeah,
we had a coloring contest one year, and I think that was the 10th year anniversary of one of the schools. And so families of students would send in their family trees, and it was a really nice experience to see something that was inspired by a book, but that can be
yeah.
very.
No, it's really nice. I love how you use those crayons. I remember that also. I think it's just like a really nice compliment to the book. Are you going to sell both books together since you have the sequel? Like if somebody didn't have the first book, what, are you going to sell them as like a bundle?
I think we're going to have an option. So those who don't have the first book, they can buy it as a bundle, and those who do, they can buy it separately. Sorry, they can buy
Right.
the sequels separately.
Yeah, that's great.
When you're going into the schools, do you have a specific procedure? Like, do you have people pre-order, or you have order forms when you're there, or is it like less formal than that? What's kind of the route of going into the schools for you?
I always donate a copy to the school. That is one thing I absolutely do. And I always give crayons with it
Mhm.
as well. Package. But I do have a QR code so the teachers can scan that. I know, it's surprising that I would know about that, but again, that's who put that
How
together.
about contact with the schools though? Do you email them or is there like a formal letter? Like as far as getting like author readings at schools. I know one of the other guests that we had on, like that was one of her areas that she did a lot of like readings at schools.
Mhm.
And I know it's could be challenging to get into a school as far as doing those readings. So like are those schools that you've already had contact with, or you were just
They have
reaching out to?
Yeah, they have been schools that I've already had contact with because I do work in the school environment. And because I've done talks in the past, they often invite me back, but I haven't done any formal cold call, I guess, to
Yeah.
say. And I do have a lot of colleagues and even family members that are in the education system in different districts. So, for example, in the Peel board, am I allowed to say different boards? But in another board that I did not work in, I have my cousin is a resource teacher, and her sister is also a teacher. And so I had donated books to their schools, and their students, they read the books to their students, pretty much the primary grades, and the students did a book review. So that was a nice way to share the book and promote it that way. And then from that, in that school board, I also got feedback from teachers and principals about the book as well too. And some have reached out to purchase, and some I haven't heard from. But in terms of it being a very formal process, that is something that is a goal for me this year to do that. And I don't know, I'll have to explore whether I, you know, do actual send out actual letters,
Mhm.
or you have any ideas? I just
Well,
as
listen to our podcast. You'll have other
well,
ideas for
I
sure. Because
Well, Rhonda spoke
yeah,
about it a lot. We published one last month with
yeah, with
Rhonda,
Rhonda.
and she has a lot. She's done a lot of school readings.
Hmm.
And I think Andrea spoke about that one as well, but we haven't published Andrea's yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
and I've also done a lot of talks in the early on centers as well
Oh,
too.
great. So
And because it's where it started.
So Tammy and I are based in Ontario, just to orient the listeners will be a lot in the States and in Canada. So we're based in Ontario. I'm in Toronto. Tammy's just outside of Toronto. Can you explain to people what early on is? Because I don't know if outside of
Oh
Ontario
yeah, is that
people
like
have the
early
same.
intervention?
Yes, I think it's just an absolutely phenomenal program that we have in Ontario. And I love them. They used to be called the Early Years Center, and now they're called Early On, ON, in both capital letters to represent Ontario, which I love words. So that is like
A win.
amazing. And these are centers where families they're drop-in centers. So some of them have formal programs for parents and their kids, their toddlers to come in. So it's geared to anywhere from, I think, 15 months right to preschool to maybe 3.5, 4 years old. And they're open centers, and you can come and you can play in different theme parts of the areas, and they have a guest speaker. So I was a guest speaker for our book, and I do some promotions around early literacy and promote early speech and language. And that's been kind of an ongoing gig, so to speak. And so those centers are across Ontario. And what I've seen that has been really exciting is the centers have changed in terms of who comes and when the programs start. When I started with Vicky almost 2 decades ago, it was really mommy and me kind of demographic. But now nonas and opas and omas and aunts and uncles and siblings come. And another wonderful opportunity is to go to the early on centers when they have their family reading programs.
Mhm.
So it's like a story time
Mm.
together. So one time we actually went, it was in the evening, and I dragged my husband, but he to come, and he filmed everything. And my daughter, Alexandra, read the book, and we were all in our matching pajamas. And
Wow, that's
it's a
cute.
really cool way to see how the early on center has evolved.
Yeah. and great that you've been involved with them for all these years too. So you've really I dropped in maybe once or twice when my son was a baby. I think my oldest is the same as your youngest, and then it didn't occur to me after that to continue a relationship. But it's such a it's so true that it's such a great way to introduce your work to young families. And you'd mentioned that you're working on a screenplay as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the screenplay?
Yeah, it is actually for a different audience. Certainly not geared for children, but it's called Love in the Time of COVID. So
Mm.
it's kind of a takeoff from an homage to love in the time of cholera. For
Hmm.
those who read that book.
Yeah.
But Love in the Time of COVID is a letter to my father. He
Mm.
passed during that time, and it is a very heartfelt tribute to him. It is sad, it is happy, it is comical, it is bizarre. It has everything from the 23rd Psalm to a life-size nativity scene and a Jason Momoa look-alike. There's just all sorts of crazy things and also a lifetime supply of Beanie Babies. It takes so many twists and turns. It's all true, but it is my gift from to my dad, and it was a really great process to write it. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with the world.
That sounds
Wow, that's really
amazing.
interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to like mention before we finish up about, so you said your book's going to be out in the fall. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we finish up today?
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to share their stories. Don't feel you have to be a professional author. I'm not a professional author. I just have a story and I just wanted to share it. And like I said before, a story's not a story until you really share it. And it could be a book, it could be a poem, it could be a painting, it could be anything that any medium that you want to share your story through. So I just really encourage everyone to share their toys and share their story.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for coming on,
That's
Tammy. Really loved speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
This is SLP by Day
Author by Night,
with Tali Kellerstein and
Becca Eisenberg
bringing the SLP writing community
together.